Yuji Itadori has sealed his soul inside of the Sukuna finger and will awaken when it's time to fight the king of the aliens in JJK Modulo. Yes, this is a wild theory and it sounds crazy, but there is so much evidence to prove this, and people don't realize this, but Yuji already is a Sukuna finger that is actually confirmed, meaning that we may get to see an incarnated Yuji in JJK Modulo. It's very possible, and Gege could easily do this if he wants. I'm not going to waste any more time. Let us get right into this crazy theory video. So be sure to leave a like, helps out so much, thank you, and of course subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK Modulo content just like this. I got a ton on the channel already and I am pumping out content non-stop, streams, videos, theories, everything you name it. You won't get subscribing, and of course thank you to the channel members China Doll, Reina, and Heavy Weather. So let's just start right off the bat, not skipping a single beat. Both the TCB and the Viz fully translated this line in chapter 257. So we can see in the Viz it says the cursed objects that are Sukuna fingers were sealed in Yuji Theory even though he was born as a player in the culling game. That is actually a very poor translation of what happened. So why don't we look at the TCB, which is notoriously infinitely better than the Viz translation by John Werry and his terrorists. In the TCB it says, you know this already, but Yuji Itadori was bred as a player in the culling games, having sealed one of my fingers. Better than the Viz, but still really vague and honestly not that great of a translation. What was actually being said here in the Japanese? It's important that I talk about this right now since I know a lot of people have probably forgotten since this was over a year ago, but when this did come out, and I'll even link evidence in the description so if you want to check it out for yourself, but a lot of translators in the community such as Lightning and many other Japanese speakers outright said that this is not what's being said. What was actually said is that Yuji had a Sukuna finger sealed inside of him when he was born, meaning that when Megumi sensed a Sukuna finger in the beginning, he may have actually been sensing Yuji. And yes, this is 100% confirmed. So I made 3-4 videos on this over a year ago, which I'll link those videos down in the description. I talk about this already, but just to catch you up if you've forgotten that information since it was a long time ago, there's that one Yuji finger from birth, there were the other 3 fingers eaten at the beginning of JJK, the one that he ate in episode 1, the other one that Gojo gave him, and of course the one when they were fighting the finger bearer that Sukuna eats. There's also the one at the end of season 1 where Sukuna just tricks Yuji and eats it, and then there were the 11 fingers that were eaten during the Shibuya incident. Then later on, Sukuna in Megumi's body eats 3, and then of course there's that final finger that nobody used that we see at the end of JJK, which was mistakenly thought to be Yuta that ate the finger that Rika ate it, but of course we find out that Yuji actually made his own finger. That would actually make 20. Though of course when Sukuna was fighting Gojo at the end, he was 20 fingers since he ate the mummy corpse, which gave him an additional boost, so it is possible that Sukuna was at 21 fingers, but it does seem like that last finger of Yuji's didn't transfer over to Meguna when he went into Megumi's body. We don't know that for sure, but from the way that it was talked about between Yuji and Choso, it sounds like Yuji is actually a Sukuna finger, like a cursed object. Does that mean he's like the mummy, where he's not actually a real finger but he's like a finger now, or does that mean that the finger never transferred over and when that seal was broken, Yuji simply just became a cursed object? At least physiology in that sense. Yuji's a very strange case where he's like a Sukuna finger, a cursed object, and he's also like a death painting at the same time, and he's also a human. There's so many things going on with Yuji, it's absolutely insane. But not to get off topic, the point is Yuji had a finger placed inside of him at birth, which we don't know if it was transferred over to Megumi when Sukuna swapped his body over to Megumi, meaning that cursed energy should still be inside of Yuji, since when they talk about it, it is confirmed that Yuji and Sukuna still have a resonance connection between each other even after Sukuna left his body. Now whether this is because he is the son of the reincarnated twin of Sukuna, or whether it's just because Sukuna was in his body so long that he became like a cursed object, there's so many different things that it could be that we don't really know if that last finger is still inside of Yuji, or if Yuji again is like the mummy where he actually just became like a finger, because that is 2 very different important distinctions to make. But why am I saying all of this? Well, it's important to note because yes, Yuji is like a cursed object, like a Sukuna finger, meaning that Yuji may actually be able to figure out how to turn himself into a cursed object since he already is one. Now it might be too complicated to create a cursed object like Sukuna did when Sukuna ripped his finger out and he put it inside of Megumi. That was a very high level technique that even Angel wasn't sure how to mimic, but remember Yuji is a prodigy and he's only 15 years old. Imagine if he spent decades researching on how to do this with Jujutsu scientists, he probably very easily would have cracked that case eventually if he was actively trying to do it, but because it was done so much on his body, he may actually just instinctively know how to do do it, but it is easier for Yuji since a Sukuna finger does exist out there. Yes, there is a Sukuna finger already, the final Sukuna finger that we see at the end of Jujutsu Kaisen. Yes, the Sukuna finger is still around, but it doesn't have Sukuna's soul left anymore. So I'll quote from chapter 268. There's a special way to turn yourself into a cursed object, which means that if Itadori takes no care in tearing you from me here, you'll die. Plus that resonance isn't all good news for you. If these 19 fingers disappear, that lone finger won't have enough pull to connect your soul to, even something like you fear's death. It means yes, that last finger of Sukuna's exists with that 5% of Sukuna's cursed energy, but because so much of Sukuna's soul, 95% of it is dying, those 19 fingers are dying, that last finger can't connect to Sukuna's soul anymore, meaning that it's actually an empty husk. And Yuji, his body and soul is already like a Sukuna finger, meaning he has a connection to this finger. He actually has a resonance to it. If Yuji so wanted to, he could very easily place his soul inside of that last Sukuna finger, which doesn't have a soul anymore since Sukuna's soul has passed on to the afterlife. This could be very cool, and it would make sense given what we heard in the first chapter, because it sounds like Itadori Yuji is not around anymore. It didn't say he was dead. It didn't say anything like that. Maybe he's just retired, or maybe he is dead. We don't know what's going on, but from the way that the sorcerer speaks, he says that there's no one as extraordinary as Gojo and Yuji anymore, meaning that he's just simply not around, or maybe not active anymore, or perhaps dead. What could have happened is that Yuji placed his soul in that final empty Sukuna finger, and it's just there waiting to be awakened, waiting to be activated in case of a crisis, in case of times in need. I do think Yuji's character actually suits this type of sacrifice, and it's not like he would have just done it right at the end of JJK. I do think Yuji would have lived his life, and maybe when he was 40, 50, 60, that's probably when he would have done it. Let's say maybe he got a sickness, or he was going to die soon. He could have just placed his soul there as a last-ditch effort, and it could just be sleeping there in case it ever needs to be used in the future. And this could be really awesome. We could genuinely see incarnation of Yuji, and if Yuji does incarnate, he's not going to do a Sukuna where he just fully takes over the body. Remember, incarnated sorcerers have a choice to coexist with their body. Now, it's a bit strange since some sorcerers subconsciously dominated the soul of the body they incarnated. Some did it by force, but some people did it by accident. But I think Yuji has such a deep insight and connection of his soul, he could very easily choose to coexist with whoever incarnates as Yuji, just in the same way that Hana and Angel are coexisting in that same way. So if things get very dire with the aliens, we could see that happening. We could see someone eat that last finger, and we could see the incarnation of Yuji. The reason I like this idea is because we would actually get to see Yuji potentially at his prime rather than seeing him as an old man, where maybe he wouldn't be as strong, he would be sick and weak. If he is incarnated, we would just see straight hands Yuji. That would be crazy. And the most important thing is that it's plausible. It's not like trying to bring Gojo back, Sukuna back, you know. I mean, there's ways. We've seen Toji came back with the sentence resurrection technique, so there's possible ways to do that. But the thing that makes the most sense is this theory. Again, Yuji is already like a Sukuna cursed object, his like body, physiology, all that stuff, and he already has a resonance connection to Sukuna's cursed energy and the fingers, and that finger is an empty husk. Yuji could easily, if he just figures out that key, because it's not like with Sukuna or someone else where they need to just completely do it from scratch, like turn himself into a cursed object. Yuji already is a cursed object, and there's even another cursed object where he simply needs to transfer his soul into. And Yuji has soul attacks. He can see souls. Like, he is the best character of all the characters to do this. Like, it's already set up for him to make it infinitely easier. He's got all the tools there, and on top of that, he is insanely attuned and adept with his own soul. If anyone could do it, it would be Itadori Yuji. It would just straight up be him, and it would be awesome to see. Now, who would eat this Yuji finger? This is probably one of the biggest questions, right? How would he incarnate? Like, who would choose to eat it? It could be one of Tsurugi or even Yuka. Maybe not Tsurugi, since he might not be a good vessel, since he seems to be sort of like Toji and Maki. It could be Yuka, but Yuka does seem to be going down that Yuta path as well. But it would be pretty interesting if we just got to see a new character altogether eat this finger, or perhaps even a descendant of Yuji's, maybe his own grandson, and it's been passed down throughout the Yuji bloodline, the Itadori bloodline, that in times of emergencies eat this finger like someone from there, and because they are connected by blood to Yuji, they could incarnate him without issue. It's the same way why Kenjaku actually chose to mate with the reincarnation of Sukuna's twin, because that would actually create a child that is suited to house Sukuna because of the connection that way, because of Sukuna's connection with Yuji. Like, there's actually a deep connection right there. It could be the same with Itadori's bloodline, where maybe Itadori's bloodline isn't actually that strong, which could be disappointing, but maybe it's just been passed down that if something happens, if it's a crisis, like let's say aliens come down from space and they have a Ryomen Sukuna level guy, eat this finger and the beast will awaken. Yuji will come back from his slumber as an incarnated sorcerer to take on that threat. It would be a good contingency since we see the modern day sorcerers are weak and there's this Sukuna level alien. You know, in my own opinion, I think he's Sukuna level. You know, you could argue it's like all of the aliens. I would argue it's just him, but you know, that's just opinions. We don't know for sure yet. But of course, when you actually look at the proper translations, because Viz did a mistranslation, unfortunately, for chapter 2, it does seem like it's specifically him who's at that level. But what are they gonna do when someone like Gojo or Sukuna's level comes up and nobody is around? I mean, even Gojo, right, one of the strongest sorcerers in all of Jujutsu history, got smoked by Sukuna. He just got absolutely killed, like cut in half. So even if we had a Gojo level character, that's not even a reassurance for the case that another Sukuna character comes back. So what would be the best reassurance is if Prime Yuji, which I do believe, this is my own opinion, but he reached that level of Sukuna and Gojo. I really do think he did, maybe even surpassing it, but you know, made a video on that already if you want to check it out. If someone like that was there as a contingency, so whether it's 50 years, 200 years, 400 years, that they would be passed down, that finger and these instructions throughout the Itadori bloodline, or I guess actually the Kamo bloodline now, since Yuji is a part of the Kamo clan, it would be passed down through them, and with those who have Yuji's lineage, this is the emergency case. Like, it's like a massive glass case that you only break in case of emergencies, like a piggy bank. And do remember that the most recent leader of the Kamo clan was Kenjaku, which is Yuji's mother, that's his parent. So the one who would be next up for the head of the Kamo clan wouldn't be Noritoshi, it would actually be Itadori Yuji. A lot of people forget that Kenjaku was the official clan head of the Kamo clan as things went down. And I do want to remind you, because people are saying, but isn't Noritoshi more suited for it? Which is true, definitely true, but it seems like Noritoshi wanted to take a step back from Jujutsu as a whole, you know, and he wasn't even involved in the Sukuna fight. And when you see Yuji Itadori as a world-renowned figure, Yuji, after that Sukuna fight, probably had some of the most political power in all of JJK, with the exception of Megumi and Yuta, who would both be the two other clan heads of the Gojo clan and the Zenin clan. And more evidence on top of that, because people are saying, but Yuji was never even part of the Kamo clan, how did he become the clan head? In the Jujutsu world, they don't give a single shit about that. They don't care at all. Megumi technically wasn't even a Zenin at birth, because Toji already left the Zenin clan when Megumi was born. Megumi's name is Megumi Fushiguro. I know he took his mother's name, but so did Toji at the time. He had officially left the clan at that point. Yet Megumi wasn't just welcomed back into the Zenin clan, as we see that was said in the data books, that the Zenin clan wanted the child Megumi to join when they found out he had a technique. Because of his technique, they actually wanted him to be the clan head, this outsider who was never in the clan to begin with, and his parent had left the clan. They wanted him to be the head of the whole clan just because of his technique, and Megumi actually became the clan head because of that. And guess who has the gifted, passed down, most prized possession of the Kamo clan, the technique that makes you the clan head? Yuji Itadori does have blood manipulation, and he's got the clout and the strength to back it up. And of course, the last clan head was his own parent. So Yuji, in theory, he should have been the clan head. Only way I can see it is if he purposely just decided to give it to Noritoshi and just said, hey, you can just take this, I really don't want this. That's the only way I can see that happening. But if Yuji did become the clan head of the Kamo clan, those instructions of the finger would be passed down through the Kamo clan and his descendants, and we would get to see an Itadori Yuji incarnated in JJK. But hey, let me know what you think in the comments down below. What do you think about this theory, or do you have your own theories? I'd love to hear them. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like. It helps out so much. Thank you very much. And of course, subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK content just like this. I got a ton on the channel, as you can see on the screen, so trust me, if you love JJK, you will not regret subscribing. And of course, once again, thanks to the channel members Heavy Weather, Rainer, and China Doll. It is much appreciated, guys. But that's all from me. Have a great day and take care.